Hey, what's up, peeps? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we do have a nice update on the rumored Nintendo Direct and some backings from some heavy hitters in the game industry here. So we're going to talk about that, in addition to what's happening with Sony and them pulling back their big first-party single-player narrative-driven games from PC, and a nice update to a game engine which should help out the Nintendo Switch 2 tremendously. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Let's start off with the Nintendo Direct. Shoutouts to Stealth on Twitter, but also Jeff Grubb, friend of the channel. He's talked about what he's heard about the next big Nintendo Direct, and he stated on the Giant Bomb podcast, the Giant Bombcast, that he has heard that Nintendo will have a Nintendo Direct around mid-June-ish, but he doesn't know what type of Nintendo Direct it's going to be. Although he is assuming that it's going to be the regular full Nintendo Direct, not a partner showcase or Nintendo Direct Mini or a Indie World, but an actual big Nintendo Direct with first-party games and big third-party games. Now, in my post on Twitter, Nate the Hate, who's really good when it comes to information and leaks, commented on a post from one of the awesome people that I know, Party Man from the channel, where he says falls in line with what Nate said months ago. Very interesting. And Nate has this nice little gif here kind of confirming, yep, that's what he's heard with this. So a lot of people have been a bit on edge when it comes to Nintendo and the Directs and everything, even going as far as to say Nintendo is not going to do Nintendo Directs or they're getting rid of them. And that was never the case, considering we just had a Star Fox Direct. That's branding. And we also had a Nintendo Direct Mini, the partner showcase. So those are all brandings of Directs. If they weren't going to do Directs, they'd probably get rid of that branding. Now, Jeff Grubb is pretty good when it comes to his information. He doesn't get everything right, just like nobody gets everything right when it comes to this, but he's been fairly accurate on so many different things with Nintendo and just in general, what he's heard about different gaming systems and rumors and games that are coming out. So I don't think Jeff Grubb would say this if he didn't legitimately hear that there would be a Nintendo Direct sometime in mid-June. Now, Nintendo is also known for having Directs around that time period when it comes to summer, so it's not really too surprising if they did have one. And the fact that Nate the Hate showed up here in my comment section, kind of confirming what Mr. Partyman had to say as well when it comes to when it lines up with what we've heard before with Nate, I think that this is probably going to be happening. Now, what games could we see at this next Nintendo Direct? Well, I think the big one that everyone is talking about is the Ocarina of Time remake. And after we saw the Star Fox 64 remake at the Star Fox Direct, people have high expectations to what Nintendo's idea of what they're going to be doing when it comes to remakes for this game. So this could be one of the best looking games that we've ever seen when it comes to Zelda if Nintendo takes the time, dedication, and care. Now, maybe it's not going to be that in-depth of a remake, but based off the vibe of what Nate said, I do think that it's going to be a nice looking remake of Ocarina of Time, and that would be a big system seller, system mover type of game. There's also a bunch of third-party games like Resident Evil 2 through 4 that might be getting announced at this upcoming Nintendo Direct. And Nintendo themselves, from Furukawa, the top of the top, has stated that they have multiple unannounced games set for this year or set for the financial year, so this year and next year, that they have not talked about. So that is pretty much on point for Nintendo, and I see them revealing at least 2 to 3 more new games. They're going to be spread out across maybe this year and next year. Just like we saw with Nintendo last year, we thought that we saw everything from them when it comes to games and all the different titles that released, and then they announced a bunch of first-party games at the September Direct. So I expect them to be announcing games at a frequent clip between bigger and smaller type of projects when it comes to Nintendo titles. So look forward to that, guys. Looks like it's going to be around mid-June for that next big Nintendo Direct. Now, in a recent article, or more like report, from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg, he states that Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Herman Holst recently told PlayStation staff that narrative single-player games will be PlayStation exclusive. So the big games like Wolverine, in addition to God of War, Horizon, those type of games will stay exclusive to the PlayStation platform, whereas the multiplayer stuff like Helldivers and Marathon, those will probably still be multi-platform. Now, this is an interesting thing. They're pivoting away from that, but once again, I think that Sony is looking at a number of different factors why they decided to do this. I think they see what the Nintendo Switch 2 is doing. The Switch 2 is selling incredibly well, very fast, despite having significantly less content overall than PlayStation. Way less third-party games, way less frequent releases of just titles. Yet the Switch 2, because of its incredibly strong first-party lineup and exclusive lineup, that's the reason why it's doing as well as it is. And it proves that Nintendo was right to never really pivot on that, so you don't have this marketing to where sometimes you're releasing games, people are asking about it, you're not sure, you're releasing it late, fans of the PC platform are not happy because they're not getting it on time. There's all sorts of issues that come about with that. Sure, you can make a lot of money, but at what cost to your actual hardware? Because what we're seeing is that PlayStation hardware is slowing down quite a bit compared to what we saw, even compared to the PlayStation 4 in the same time frame. It is behind it in sales. Now, GTA is going to make up that and then some, but it still is behind it. And they're seeing that the Nintendo Switch 2 is accelerating at a historic pace when it comes to sales because of those exclusives. I also think that Sony sees the competition gearing up for their next platforms that are going to essentially be PCs. And if you release Wolverine on PC, it's going to be on the Project Helix or the next Xbox, and it's also going to be available on the Steam machine, which is gearing up for a release as well. So I think Sony saw the writing on the wall. They saw what's at stake. They see what's happening with Nintendo and how those exclusives are helping to push. And if they have a confident plan to actually build out exclusive titles, especially with their new initiative that encompasses AI and helping to reduce the development time of games, Sony's going to want to have those big games like Intergalactic from Naughty Dog or the next big title that they have when it comes to God of War. They're going to want those to be exclusive to push the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 6 going forward in the future. So Nintendo's strategy combined with what they've always done with third party, that's where Sony's had the most amount of success, and they see what's happening when it comes to the sales and the specialized market that gaming is going to be, and they're pulling back from that. So exclusives are going to be very valuable going forward in the future, considering how many different places that you can pick up games. And I think Sony saw that, decided that it probably wasn't a good idea to continue on and follow in what Nintendo's doing and having those true big exclusives when it comes to their single player content. But moving on to something that's not quite exclusive, Unreal Engine has been having some issues across the board. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, and the Unreal team over at Epic, they understand this. They have something that should help out, and something that I think could really help out when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 development of games. So Unreal Engine 5.8 gets a new Lumen mode apparently that's going to improve performance and could benefit the Nintendo Switch 2. So Unreal Engine 5 recently released a new preview for its version 5.8 update, which could bring about benefits for the Nintendo Switch 2 and its games. The company is now prioritizing performance advancements, which has become continually important over the past few months. As part of this, a new Lumen mode has been revealed that targets 60 FPS on all gaming systems, including handhelds. Nintendo Switch 2 isn't specifically mentioned, but the platform stands to profit in the future. Yes, the Switch 2 would definitely benefit from that because it's an engine-wide type of thing, not specifically targeted towards a platform. Now, once you put it on the system, then of course the specs in terms of what you can do and the adjustments are all there, but it's going to target anything that runs Unreal Engine 5. Let's go over the full notice. It says Lumen now supports medium quality global illumination and using irradiance fields with probe occlusion. It's twice as fast as Lumen high quality, which targets 60 FPS on PlayStation 5 while maintaining the art direction for games that rely on global illumination. This path is the new default for current gen handheld consoles, where it can be used at 60 FPS and is supported on PC as well. Now, Unreal Engine 5 has struggled on all platforms in terms of performance. On Nintendo Switch 2, Digital Foundry previously pointed out that titles like Chronos: The New Dawn, Fortnite, and Split Fiction do not use the engine's Lumen and Nanite features. Unreal Engine 5.8 and additional improvements down the road could lead to better performing and better looking games in the future. Now, a few recent games that used Unreal Engine included Mario & Luigi Brothership and Princess Peach Showtime, and I think some of the Yoshi games used them as well. But those games were a little bit notorious when it comes to handheld resolution and performance at times. Those also delivered 30 FPS on the Nintendo Switch 1. So with this update here, with the Nintendo Switch 2 current handhelds, and I think that hybrid systems also play a part when it comes to Switch 2 and just the engine itself, this could really improve things. Now, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, that game also uses Unreal Engine, so it already runs at 60 FPS, and obviously the art style is very different, so I don't think there's going to be any improvements there. The game's already done, and we're going to talk about that game in just a bit. But I think that going forward, I think that this could be a big help. So, for example, back when the Nintendo Switch 1 came out, Unreal Engine was not quite ready for the platform when Dragon Quest XI launched. So they actually decided to rebuild it within Dragon Quest specifically for the Nintendo Switch 2 and waited on those updates. I think that with this update here, you can get things that are going to be a lot better going forward in the future for these games. So potentially having more features in and better performance with more intense games that are going to use some of these features that Unreal Engine 5 has brought to the table. So it's definitely a good thing for all platforms included, because Unreal Engine 5 has struggled when it comes to certain games on all platforms, but definitely a boost for the Nintendo Switch 2 that has been hit kind of hard when it comes to certain Unreal Engine games. All right, peeps, that's going to wrap it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get all of my videos as soon as they drop. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.